Yo, welcome back to the channel. It's been a fucking while, but we're finally back after a year-long hiatus. Nua is back on the platform known as YouTube, and yeah, we're coming back with Chelsea 2, AFC Bournemouth 0 at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea getting 3 points. Graham Potter and the Chelsea Army getting off to a good start post World Cup with a 2-0 win. And yeah, I won't even go into that much detail about my hiatus. I might do a stream after this video that goes live, because I'd say a lot of you are either new or don't give a fuck. So yeah, we're going to get straight into talking about this match first and foremost. But yeah, it was a really weird one to start with, because I feel like pre-game it was like a fresh start almost for every player, because obviously the atmosphere in, as a Chelsea fan and in and around the club, from, in the ground and outside the ground, was just at an all-time low really. It was so negative, especially after the run of results we had before the World Cup, most particularly that one they lost to Newcastle, which capped off a run of horrendous results before the World Cup. So it was kind of like a fresh start for pretty much every player and Graham Potter, and kind of, put the distant, put the pre-World Cup games in the distant memory. And yeah, I feel like there was a few players that were, very, very poor before the World Cup that actually had some decent games today. First of all, the change of system, 4-3-3. We were deploying a 3 at the back system for 90% of the games that Potter had managed us in before the World Cup, and I like the system change, 4-3-3. I think it just gives us a little bit more fluidity, gives us more attacking prowess, because as we know as Chelsea fans and as neutrals as well, the attacking talent or the attacking prowess in the team recently, the attacking quality, hasn't been at its finest. And that's why I think if you give us that extra attacker rather than a defender, or rather than a third centre back, you give us that fourth attacker, I think it's evidently going to make us more fluid and give us more options for creativity and more options going forward in the final third. That definitely gave us that. And yeah, I like that attack of, Pulisic on the left, Sterling on the right, Mount down the middle, and yeah, Havertz up front playing as almost like a link man or a false nine in that, I would call Firmino role, because he was like the main one that comes to mind if I think of that role. And I think they were very fluid, especially in the first half. I mean, first of all, I think it was a game of two halves really, because I think we played really well. I think it was some of the best football I've ever seen us play under Graham Potter. Not that that would be a difficult thing whatsoever, but yeah, I think it was very, very good in the first half. Second half kind of died off a little bit. Was it maybe the lack of match sharpness, following the World Cup, because most of our players, even though they had gone to the World Cup, some of them were on holiday, some of them coming back, and obviously club football is very, very different to international football, and a lot of those Bournemouth players didn't go to the World Cup, so maybe they had a little bit of more legs in the tank. But yeah, overall the first half, I think we came quick out the blocks. Kai Havertz's goal was an absolutely beautiful goal. First of all, to move the ball into midfield to Jorginho, who actually did really well today with Dennis Zakaria, who I'll go on to in a minute, next to him. I think Zakaria in midfield next to Jorginho gave Jorginho less emphasis on winning the ball back and breaking up play, and more emphasis on getting the ball forward, breaking the lines. And that was a perfect example for the first goal, because brilliant ball through to break the lines to Mason Mount, and Mason Mount in his natural position, that's where he's best, in that like 8/10 role, picking up the ball in the half turn and playing it forward. He plays it to Sterling, who gives a very good ball to Havertz, and yeah, delighted to see that goal worked out, because obviously those were three attacking players, Mount, Havertz and Sterling, that were under a little bit of pressure and weren't on the best form whatsoever before the World Cup, I think it's fair to say. So it's good for the three of them to get involved in that goal, and it was a very, very nice team move, as I said. And yeah, delighted for Havertz. Hopefully the goal now can give him a bit more confidence, and he did actually come quick out the blocks in the first half, Havertz. I think even before the goal he was actually playing really well and expressing himself more and seemed a little bit more confident. And yeah, then for the second goal as well, another fluid goal. Once again, Mason Mount at his best in his position in that 8 role. I'm telling you, Mason Mount in that role that's his best form. We can't be playing Mason Mount off the right in the three up top attack. We need to be playing Mount in that 8/10 in the in front of the pivot and behind the striker and in between the two wingers. I think that's where you're going to get the best out of Mason Mount, because I think personally he's one of the best players in the league on the half turn, and I think that's where you're going to get the best out of Mason Mount. And obviously it tells today with his involvement in the first goal and the second goal, which was a brilliant finish. The technique was absolutely brilliant, and Havertz getting himself involved directly in a goal and assist in both the goals, which is obviously very, very nice to see as well. But obviously we stopped then at 2 goals. I think Bournemouth did start to get a little bit into it. They started to grow in the game, to be fair, mostly in the second half. As the second half went on, they started to grow in the game, started to bring more men forward, and even though they didn't really create that many clear-cut chances, and they troubled us once or twice, but not that much. But I think that's just a difference in quality. So I think we were kind of lucky that if we were playing against a better opposition, no disrespect to Bournemouth, I think we may have been punished and may not have kept a clean sheet. But overall, you know, the Premier League is very strong. Bournemouth are quite a difficult team to beat, especially for us as well. I mean, people do forget we have a horrendous record against Bournemouth, and there's actually a mad stat, right? Before today's game, Bournemouth have won more times at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League than they've lost there, which I just find absolutely mind-blowing. And Bournemouth have been quite a bogey team for us over the years, so it was good to get one over them tonight and to get a 2-0 win, which obviously was comfortable on the swing of things. But as I said, Bournemouth did go into the game in the second half, and that's one thing that would worry me a little bit going forward, is we can't be letting teams back into the game like that. And as I said, if we, you know, let teams like your Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, United, etc., even Newcastle now as well, they're doing really well under Eddie Howe. If you give those teams that license to grow into the game and have a sniff of goal in the second half of the game, we will be punished by higher quality attackers. But yeah, that's another thing for us to worry about in the future, and hopefully we can cop onto that in the future. But overall, I mean, you can't really complain, even though I felt a little bit like deflated almost, I suppose, at the end of the game, because the first half was so good and so intense and was just liquid football really. In the second half we kind of died off, let Bournemouth back into the game, as I keep saying. But yeah, we've got to celebrate our victories. We can't complain. A 2-0 win and a clean sheet and 45 minutes of football at the very least, that I thought was very, very good, and hopefully a sign of things to come under Graham Potter with that 6 weeks or whatever he had to prepare that team over the World Cup break. And yeah, as I said, as I alluded to earlier in the video as well, the difference in Jorginho, I think, as well, playing in that pivot next to an out-and-out holding midfielder like Dennis ZAKARIA, who I thought was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I think Dennis ZAKARIA was absolutely brilliant in terms of breaking up the play, on the ball, his composure to get the ball forward. He not too much backwards passing. I really don't like to see too much backwards passing, because that's something that we've been really really skeptical to in the last few months. And I think Dennis ZAKARIA really gave us a breath of fresh air in that midfield in terms of breaking up play and getting the ball forward and just making himself a presence in the Chelsea team. And of course, as I said, giving more license, I think anyway, to Jorginho to ping the ball forward more and not be too worried about giving away the ball, because then he knows then he's the main man in midfield to try and win the ball back. And yeah, even though we won the game, which is obviously a massive positive, one thing that we can't forget really in the game was Reece James coming off after 53 minutes with an injury. I mean, I just put my hands to my head when he came off. I was like, this guy is so unlucky. He's come back after 6 weeks, missing the World Cup for his country, his first ever World Cup, and he's been our best player. He is our best player in my personal opinion, and we're a completely different team without him. And maybe that does actually explain why we were so poor in the second half compared to the first half anyway. Reece James, his lack of presence in that team, even though I think Azpilicueta came on and did a job, he's no Reece James, and Reece James is just, in my opinion, he's the best right back in the world. Call me delusional, maybe I'm biased, but I think he's the best right back in the world in terms of how complete he is and what he gives us. I think he's our best player. I think he's our most important player, and yeah, it was a real shame for him to come off injured, and I really do pray to the gods that he's not gone for a while, because if he is, we are in some trouble. Even though he's a right back, I think he's our best player, and you can tell by watching our games with and without him, we're a completely different team without him. But another player I want to actually give some credit to as well, because he has had his fair amount of stick, and rightly so really, for the first bit of the season before the World Cup. I think Cucurella was actually very good, very sturdy, didn't put a foot wrong whatsoever the whole game. Looked like a player reborn once again, like I alluded to at the start of the video, a fresh start for all the players, and I think Cucurella really took that on his back, and I think he was very, very good, putting a solid shift, and hopefully now we can see him build on that, and stamp down his authority on that left back spot. Even though Ben Chilwell I really rate highly, I think Cucurella, if he plays like that every week, I think he'll really mark his authority on this Chelsea team, because I think he was very good. And yeah, in terms of the front four, as I said, that Pulisic, Sterling, Havertz and Mount front four. Raheem Sterling, I just don't know what it is with him. I actually think he played decent, but I just want to see a little bit more from him, because there's sometimes in especially in the first half where he was so indecisive with the ball. Besides the assist he got for Havertz's goal, I think sometimes he has the quality. He's a world class player on his day, Raheem Sterling. I genuinely do believe that. We've seen it at City, and yeah, there's obviously concrete evidence when he was at City at what he's capable of. I just think I want a little bit more from Raheem Sterling in the final third. I think he needs to take on his man more, and he can be a goal scorer, and he can be an unbelievable player for us. Well, as I said, I don't want to knock him too much, because I actually do think he played well, but I just want to see that little bit more from Raheem Sterling, and the same from Pulisic as well. I think Pulisic was once again like Sterling. I think he was on par in terms of, I think he was decent, but most of all I want to see Pulisic get a run of games in the team now, because there's been too many times, especially under Thomas Tuchel, even though I love Thomas Tuchel, there's been too many times where Pulisic has played okay and then been dropped, and it hasn't been the same for Mount or Havertz, who had a poor game and are in the team the next week. That's no knock to Mount or Havertz either, because both of them were good in my opinion today as well, especially Mount. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. But I want to see Pulisic get a run of games in the team, especially with the injury concerns he's had over the last, year or two. Because you remember, Christian Pulisic on his day is probably our best player, actually, to be honest. He's got shades of Hazard. He reminded me of Hazard, especially in that, the back end of COVID, where he was absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, I want to see Pulisic get a run of games in the team, get back to his best, because I genuinely do believe he can be a really, really good player for us if he does. And yeah, as for what's next, of course, we play Nottingham Forest. We go away to Nottingham Forest on Sunday, on New Year's Day. And personally, in my opinion, I think that just has, a loss written all over it, simply because it's, a newly promoted team playing at home against a Big Six team. It has the hallmarks of a loss, but hopefully I'm proved wrong. Hopefully we can build on the first half, especially of today's game. And I think it would be an impressive win if we can win at Nottingham Forest. Even though they've been very poor this season and they can leak goals, I think it'll be a very, very good result for us if we can go to Forest and get a win, because as I said, it's very tough going away to especially the smaller teams in the league, but especially the newly promoted teams. And yeah, then we have the double header against Man City in the Premier League and then the FA Cup on that weekend. I'm going to the Premier League game against City, so hopefully we have a good atmosphere and hopefully we can get a good result. But yeah, that's for another video. Yeah, thanks very much for watching this video. It feels really weird doing this, I can't lie, and I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know why. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done this. It's been like, what, nearly a year since I actually made a video, so I apologise if I was, stuttering a bit, or if I'm, just making a of it really. But yeah, thanks for watching anyway. Leave a like, subscribe. I was going to say leave a subscribe. It's been so long since I've done this, and I was drinking last night, so please just leave me off. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe, all that shite, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video, and yeah, see ya.